So, in any event, I'll stop there. And if there are any comments or questions, we can have them.
You're listening and viewing Regent Radio. This is Saturday Morning Live. We are broadcasting live from a different book list. The email address here is info@adifferentbooklist.com. The website is www.adifferentbooklist.com. And we are located at 746 Bathurst Street here in Toronto. And the phone number here is 416-538-0889. And I don't know how we're going to work this out, but it's your time to, you've been sitting here patiently. And if you have a question for Dr. Horne, please step forward and take the mic, and whatever you want to ask Dr. Horne, you can, you have your chance to speak right now. We have until 1 o'clock. We have over half an hour, and I guess we're in the control of the situation. I guess if it really gets good, we can go a little bit longer. I guess that won't be a problem. So I know you have a date.
Yeah, just a comment where Justin Trudeau said to Peter Kent, I don't know if I can say this on the air, but you're full of shit for taking Kyoto out of Canada.
He said that, yeah.
Yeah, and that I see Canada still as an imperialist country. I don't see Canada as, you know, I talked to my friend about it. He says, what are you talking about there? Canada's not imperialist. Oh, yes, it is. I mean, look at the things that are gone on a long time ago and are still going on now, and even worse. You know, I mean, I see, you know, Stephen Harper and Rob Ford, they're all, as far as I'm concerned, they're dictators, the way that they're running things. But even also Israel and the U.S. beating the drums of war to attack Iran. You know, I saw this film yesterday about the Congo.
Oh, yes.
And I remember people demonstrating here in the Congo, and I said, what's going on? And I found out. Somebody said, yeah, they're demonstrating against the Congo. And there was a film I saw yesterday, which was where that the children of the Congo go into the mines to bring out the coltan that people use in cell phones. So one of the women came up and she asked the question, well, you know, I'm addicted to my cell phone and all this stuff, and I really can't give it up. And then another speaker came up and he says, yes, you can. It's just, I guess too, maybe it's also hard because we're living in the 20th century. So people have a really hard time. I mean, like, oh, the cell phone, but not realizing that, you know, children are going into the mines, digging up this coltan, and their lives are in jeopardy. That's some of the things that I wanted to mention.
Here.
Thank you.
I wanted to acknowledge the presence of Ome Rahamtula, who is a regular here at Saturday Morning Live, and I think she's working with CHRY right now. Just wanted to give you your props. I know we have a lot of people here, and I know people have questions. While you're formulating your question, I had a question. The International Longshore and Warehouse Men's Union. I guess they dropped the men's. Now they are the Warehouse Union.
Right.
ILWWU. They're still in the existence today, and they're leading the struggle in Northern California, where they're calling for strikes against shutdown of Oakland and so on and so forth. Could you talk about that?
The ILWU, it was one of the few unions in North America that had Marxist, socialist, communist leadership for years. It was formed as a result of a general strike in San Francisco in 1934, led for years by Harry Bridges, well born in Melbourne, Australia. As you know, the west coast of North America, I would say, from Victoria, Vancouver down to San Diego is heavily populated by people from down under, migrants. And this union is formed, and there were many attempts to put him in jail and deport him, most of which failed. As I recall, Bridges died in his 80s in the United States. And the union leadership today, I don't think it's fair to say, even if it were true, I wouldn't admit it. It's not communist oriented, but it's still progressive, particularly given the backwardness in the United States as a whole. Now, with regard to the Occupy movement, there's been controversy because you have rank and file members of the union, particularly in the West Coast in San Francisco, who are gung-ho for Occupy. The leaders, not so much. So this has led to controversy because then the Occupy movement has become an issue in terms of rank and filers trying to dislodge the current leadership and take over the union. I should also mention, and it's interesting, I wonder if there's an analogy in in Canada. In the West Coast of the United States, the longshore unions and the workers are generally led by those of the left. Whereas on the East Coast, they're generally led by gangsters.
Right. Huh.
And you might have seen the movie On the Waterfront.
Yeah.
With Marlon Brando about the gangster-controlled union in New York City.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I could have been somebody. You were my brother. You should have looked out for me. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that scene.
I mean, do you have an analogy to that in Canada? I mean, in terms of longshore, or are there any analogies of unions on the West Coast? I know Vancouver, as I understand it, tends to be more progressive than a good deal of Canada.
Yeah.
So, but do you have gangster leadership in any of these unions on the East Coast? No?
I don't know.
But they claim
Or did Montreal?
Montreal. I was getting ready. Yeah, could you speak to that?
Not in any detail.
No, I was getting ready to say they've always been there. They have always been these allegations about Montreal being gangsta. Yeah. Montreal is, even before I moved to Canada in California, people told me that Montreal was everything good and bad about Canada you could find in Montreal. They had.
Well, I mean, look at the Bronfman family,
Yes.
one of the first families of Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
For what it's worth, a prominent Jewish Canadian family that got heavily involved in bootlegging at a time when there was a prohibition on alcohol sales in the United States, and made a small fortune, and then, as often happens with organized crime families in the second and third generation, the money is then invested, first in DuPont Chemical and then in the entertainment business, where Edgar Bronfman still plays a prominent role in the music business, even though that's a business.
Is it BMG?
I can't recall of the name.
BMG is German now.
Because he keeps jumping
Right.
from company to company. And then, of course, the Bronfman family play a very prominent role in the Zionist movement internationally. Canadians' contribution to the international community. So, I don't know.
And this is Regent Radio. We are streaming on Justin TV from different book lists. Gerald Horne writes, what is it, from, I like to say from Hank Aaron to Shaka and the Zulus. He goes from A to Z, or Z, I guess I should say. But we really would like to hear internationally some calls, because we know people are...
Or even in this room, for that matter.
The room would be in this room. It would be very nice. I know a lot of people call. I see a lot of people when we're on the air. They call and they ask questions. Now we have the man in the house, and he can answer.
Well, let me ask my own question.
Go ahead.
Which is, the situation in Pakistan is deteriorating with every passing day. Part of it has to do with the fallout still from the May 2011 attack that led to the killing, apparently, of Osama bin Laden, who was found apparently about a mile from a Pakistani military citadel. And this raised questions in some quarters as to whether or not Mr. bin Laden had been sheltered by the Pakistani authorities. Now, there is a feeling in NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that Pakistan has been playing a double game in Afghanistan. That on the one hand, they're supposedly helping NATO. On the other hand, supposedly they're helping those who are fighting NATO. That they're profiting from both. You know, it's typical double game. That's how the United States catapulted into world leadership, by playing a double game. Some have even suggested that Canada tried the same thing in the 21st century. Talk out of both sides of your mouth. And in any case, what's happening now is that the civilian leadership is under stress right now, because there's this Pakistani U.S. business person named Mansour Ijaz, who wrote an article from Financial Times a few months ago, where he suggested that apparently the civilian leadership had gone to Washington to try to prevent a military coup, and the military didn't like that. So now there's this back and forth between the military and the civilians. President Zardari, who is of course the spouse, the spouse of slain leader Benazir Bhutto, he's been away from Pakistan in the last few months as much as I have, and I've never even been there. Because apparently he feels, he's not safe. He's the president. That he stays in the, so he's been spending all his time in Dubai. And as a matter of fact, I think I just read the article today. He's just left for Dubai again. So it's a very dicey situation right now. As you know, Pakistan has had all these military coups over the years. And what makes the situation even more troublesome? So of course it's a nuclear power. Its relations with India are not the best. The situation in Afghanistan is deteriorating rapidly. You might have heard the latest news where these U.S. soldiers were caught desecrating the corpses, shall we say, of Taliban soldiers. I won't go into the details. It's quite obnoxious. So the situation deteriorating. Now, of course, the U.S. they say they want to get out. They want to get out of Dodge by 2014. Now, when is Canada going to leave? Or has Canada left already?
They've left. They said they've left.
Is that true?
Of course not.
Militarily.
Yeah, militarily.
Quote, trainers, quote unquote.
Yeah, right. Same thing.
Right. But it's a disastrous situation, and what strikes me though about Afghanistan is that there's so little interrogation, even from the left, about how this mess was created. I mean, going back to the collaboration with those who were once called freedom fighters, now called terrorists, beginning in the 1980s. I mean,
was it Jurbinsky that stood on the border?
Brzezinski.
Brzezinski who stood on the border of Afghanistan and said that Allah walked by. He said that we Christians and Muslims can unite against the godless communists. Was that?
Oh, sure.
And then,
well, even Rambo 3. Anybody remember the movie Rambo 3?
Yeah.
With Sylvester Stallone, where there's an Osama bin Laden type character who's glamorized. And you were supposed to look up to him. But now the worm is turned, as they say, and those who were once freedom fighters are now bloody terrorists. Yeah. But even on the left, I don't think there's been sufficient interrogation of how this fiasco was created. Yeah. Well.
I have a question. I guess we can go over time, but I want us to hear from the audience. But I wanted you to talk about the state of the film. You're getting ready to go to the Pan-African Film Festival.
Yes.
And I wanted you to talk about the state of Hollywood, Bollywood, and Nollywood.
Well, the U.S. film industry, to start with, is not doing very well.